Good, good.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. I think people will probably trickle in, um, and that's okay. I really want this one to be very interactive. I'm not going to put myself in a role of, I'm being the presenter, even though I will be doing a lot of the presenting. Um, it works better. It works better for all of us if this becomes kind of an interplay of things. All right. Good. Okay, we're all good to go then. So, what is today about, or at least this workshop? It's about the principles of living a life of eminence. There's many words that probably could have been put in place instead of eminence. Other terms like majestic come to mind, but the idea behind this is really that we have such an extraordinary ability, such an extraordinary opportunity to be able to kind of be more, right? Be more than what we are. And in our culture and in our society, it gets really quite hard to do that. And so if you've gotten the email, there were 5 points, and I'm just going to go through this. The way this will work today is I'll sort of go through the 5 points, what those are, and then we'll take them one at a time. And depending on how much time we have, then we may get through all of them. We may only get through 2 or 3 of them. Doesn't matter. We'll do follow-ups. And yeah, we'll explore each of these kind of from a different standpoint. So the 5 are: to live by what one is, to live by what one stands for, to live in pursuit of one's beliefs, to live by a chosen covenant of life, and to live to continue the ways and works of kind. I'm going to ask, what does it mean to live by what one is? Someone jump in here. If you were to ask somebody kind of on the street or a friend or whatever the case may be, not who are you, but what are you? What do you think some of the responses you might get back would be? And pardon me while I adjust something real quick, but think about that for a moment. Just give me some ideas of how you think people might respond to such a thing.
I am what I am.
I am what I am. Right, the Almighty.
I think that a lot of people would be, they would automatically assume that when you say what, they would assume that you mean one of their roles of life. So they would say, I am a plumber, or I'm a doctor, or I'm a bus driver, or I'm a parent, or I'm a, it would be that layer that people would sign into with that statement, I think, rather than an internal thing. I just think that the way language is structured, I think most people would see that rather than the what of who we are.
Yeah, Mike, so what you're really pointing to is that we're sort of loose, aren't we, as a culture regarding the idea of our what versus our who.
Yeah.
The who of you.
Well, the many who's.
Yeah, right. And there are many who's as well. You're absolutely right, because me, Pierce, me, myself, and I, right? There's 3 of us already. Me, Pierce. I'm when I do this is probably the what of me. I would have to say that, right? When I'm actually engaged in this type of work. But at the same time, I'm also an engineer. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm, I've done all of these things. We don't have this kind of distinction in our society and in our culture. And it's curious because the ancient Egyptians actually had 4 names. They had one by which they were kind of born, one by which their station, and one for their higher forms, their Ka and Ba, I think is what they called them, but they're higher aspects of themselves. So they had 4 names. I think in that respect, they were probably a bit ahead of us. So how does one go about coming to this understanding of what you are, not who you are? because there's so many ways to answer this. And like I said, we're very ambiguous about it. In kind of winding up to this discussion, I had a thought process that I'd like to share, because isn't this the question that every religion tries to answer? You know, and you ask someone on the street, what are you? And Mike, you're absolutely right. You're going to get, oh, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm a whatever. Yeah, these types of things. But the process that I worked through was to kind of take it out of the role of personalities for a minute. And I would like to try an experiment with you all to get you kind of on the frequency of what I'm talking about here. If you have a piece of paper, please grab it now and just get a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle. It'll come in handy. I should have actually asked you to bring one. If not, we'll also be doing it on the board. And I'm going to switch over to the board for a moment, I think. Anyway.
I've got spares if anybody wants them.
Right, hand them out. Okay. Well, for whatever reason, it's not switch. Hold on one second, guys. As you can tell, I'm a professional here. Okay. Can you guys see the board?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. So you have your piece of paper, draw a line straight down the middle, just like that. Okay. And on the left side of it, I want you to just consider for a moment dogs. Not a specific dog, not a particular dog, but dogs in general. And start thinking about features that are the same for all dogs. Can someone give me one? What's the same for every dog?
A mouth.
A mouth, okay.
4 legs.
4 legs.
Born with 4 legs.
Huh? Born with 4 legs? What'd you say?
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of tripods lately.
Okay, well, fair enough. What else?
Tiger.
Huh? Someone
They
said
bark.
something.
They bark.
Yeah, right. They bark.
Woof.
Yeah, they bark. They're protective of their territory, aren't they?
They're pack animals.
Right. They like to go in packs. What else?
They can smell better than you. I don't mean physically.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay. Sense of
The
smell.
natural yeah. The natural scavengers.
Scavengers. Okay. What else? It's going to go until we wind down a bit.
They tend to be loyal.
Loyal. Loyalty. Okay.
They can do tricks.
They can do tricks.
They love human beings.
Love humans.
Yeah, they're
Evolved with humans.
Yeah, right. Sandra's here.
Evolved with humans. So I'm going to put an arrow for human here. For me, means evolved. Probably should be an up arrow.
If your name's Pierce, you get 3 or 4 at once.
Yeah, true, right. Okay.
Mike's worse. Yeah, okay.
This is good. This is good for now. This will be a good start. What I'd like you to do now is to think of a particular dog, and it doesn't have to be your dog. It can be your friend's dog, a childhood dog, whatever the case may be. And start calling out, I'm going to move the screen over here this way just a little bit. Start calling out attributes of that dog. I'll start. My dog's name was Buddy. He didn't like water. Didn't like deep water. He loves squirrels. It's probably not how you spell squirrels. I don't love squirrels. He also loved cats. Not in a predatory way, but like in a I want to play kind of way. Pick a dog from your repertoire. Give me some more attributes.
Wags its tail.
He wags its tail. Okay, and this. Okay, right.
Yeah, that's a natural.
Mhm.
Yeah, good. What else?
I've got one
In
right.
a
Likes to eat.
Loves to eat.
Mhm.
Anything in particular he'd love to eat, or he or she?
You on a desert island. If there's nothing.
Every,
Followed me everywhere.
Okay, follow. Good. Okay. Does this list suffice? You guys see where we're going yet?
No.
Good. Let's compare this now. So on the one hand, let me move this camera just a tad here. On the one hand, we have things that are, at least the ask was things that are endemic to all dogs. On the other hand, we have things that are part of a particular dog, one particular dog. Now, what I want you to do, actually what we should do together is start to cross off from this list everything that is influenced by a human. In other words, through breeding, through whatever the case may be. So I can already say, loves humans. I'll scratch that one off. Do you know why? Because not all dogs, take wolves, for example. They don't necessarily love humans, except for maybe as a snack, right? What about loyalty? What about tricks? Can we safely cross tricks off? I think we can. Because we teach them, right? Sit, stay, roll over, lay down, all those types of things. Yeah.
I think the loyal, in a broader sense of the word, the loyal to the pack that they're in, the loyal to that tend to be. 10 dogs, once they're in a pack, they tend not to say, you know what, I'm going to play for the other team next season. You know, once the dog's in a pack, it tends to stay with it indefinitely.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think
So
in
we'll
that
keep-
sense, loyalty exists. Yeah.
We'll keep that one.
You wasn't by any chance a dog in your last life, was you? Mike?
Me. Oh, Mike.
Just wondered. I mean, you know, it's just, what are you laughing for, Zaya? I mean,
My legal team says I must decline to comment.
Oh,
Okay.
And you
let's-
could keep tricks
Fourth
because
Amendment rights, right?
in the wild, you can keep tricks because in the wild, dogs do learn to work together in that pack and do specific things to bring down their prey. So you could say tricks or that working together and who could do what better did those jobs in the pack in the wild could be tricks.
I'm going to say practicing skills,
Mhm.
dog skills. And the reason why I'm going to say it that way is because I want to draw a distinction between, sit, stay, roll over, beg, those sorts of things, and what dogs and cats and most animals actually naturally do, right? In the wild, where they practice being what they are. And that's going to become important actually later. So, right, I agree with you. And I'm sorry, I don't know who was speaking. Was that you, Aaron?
No,
No.
it was Sandra.
Hi, Sandra. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Right, they have a good sense of smell. Okay, so what are we left with here? They have mouth. They have 4 legs. They bark. They're territorial. They're pack animals. They like to practice their skills. They have a strong sense of human. They have a strong sense of smell. Do they naturally like humans? Maybe for the last 30,000 years, they have been so inclined because there is evidence that dogs and humans coexisted for quite a long time. But I don't think it's natural to them more so or as much as it is kind of a breeding. Yeah.
I think if left in the wild, they'd probably like humans as prey.
Yeah,
Maybe.
absolutely. Yeah, definitely. So I think we can scratch that one off too. Now, let's look at this side over here. The only one that I see on here, actually there's 2 of them. I think we can move eat over here because, there's something really funny about dogs. They love to just tear things up and destroy things, don't they? And it's actually it seems to me, or it occurs to me, that it's actually part of their natural function on the planet is to take things that are bound together like sticks or anything else that they find and break it up so that the planet can redigest it easier. Yeah. But they also love to eat. What about follow? I think follow can be kind of one on either side there. I have a question for you. What about a love of squirrels in the case of my dog Buddy? Is that something that is natural and endemic, or is it something that has been bred in? What do you think? There's no wrong answer. Just what do you
It's
think?
natural. I think it's natural.
What about supposing you need to ask its parents?
Yeah. And maybe it's parents' parents.
Well,
Because
it's what I'm saying, isn't there? If you want to know what the parents are like, look at the children. If you want to know what the children are like, look at the parents.
yeah. Right.
Just a point.
I think the thing about the squirrels, I think dogs have an inherent curiosity about other life forms. I think, they want to know what if they see a hedgehog, if they see anything. I think they've got I wonder what that is. I know they always say curiosity killed the cat, but dogs are very fascinated. They'll watch a bird for hours. They'll watch, a hedgehog and things like squirrels. They just, like you say, you're saying yours like to play with cats, and squirrels. I think it's the same thing. I just think they've got a natural curiosity.
Yeah.
Whether that ties into their kind of predatory scavenger nature.
Right.
Probably not, because they're not trying to kill them or harm them. They want to make friends effectively.
A lot of them do. You're right. Yeah. Right. So where I'm going with this is, the point of this exercise is not to teach you all about dogs, but it's to get you on the frequency of making this distinction between what is inherent in something and what is an addition in something. And even the idea of being loyal to humans, for example, is one of those strange border things, isn't it? Because loyalty may be an inherent feature of dogs, but loyalty to humans may not, right?
How about the idea that maybe that it recognizes humans as a higher life form, and that dogs actually do have what some humans don't, and that's a humility or an appreciation of higher life.
Right.
Because we couldn't call ourselves the highest life form in creation, can we? Even though our religion says so. Or I say our religion, I mean religion.
Human religion, yeah.
Per se, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But doesn't that include that maybe that somewhere in the organic life forms on this planet at this time, there are higher life forms than us?
Yeah, for sure. I think that belongs in there.
Yeah, but how would you naturally recognize them? Because I think if they're higher, they would be more natural, wouldn't they? I mean, more themselves. Whereas we're not ourselves. So when you take off dog does tricks, what you're actually doing is removing the human element in a lesser life form than we are. And then you will end up with the real dog itself, wouldn't you?
Yes. Yeah. And that's exactly where I'm going with this is to just kind of get on the frequency of making that
gold star now.
Yes, you can. Of making that separation.
So good.
Now, in your own piece of paper, in your own notebook, or whatever you have there, let's do this all over again, except this time, let's start with humans, and then you can save the right side just for yourself. We're not here to expose everyone, but what is something fundamental about humans?
They breathe.
We breathe, okay?
They eat food. They're combustible creatures.
Humans are combustible?
Yeah, trees live by reduction. Humans live by combustion.
Oh, right.
You take it in and break it all up. Trees get it from the atmosphere and then grow on that, don't they?
Yeah, right. Okay.
Good point.
I follow. I'm going to put that here next to breathe because that's part of the process. What about bipedal? 2 legs, right?
Yeah.
Bipedal. Bike riders. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they're naturally bike riders. 2 legs, 2 arms. Opposing thumb.
They're
There's something
competitive
unique.
and combative.
Combative.
And competitive.
Competitive, okay.
Group animal.
Group animal. Societal. We'll say cultural or societal. Societal. The essence of spelling has left me today, so hopefully you all understand. What else? Let's throw a few more things in there.
Reasoning.
Huh?
Reasoning.
Reasoning.
Oh,
I mean, yeah, right. We are called Homo sapiens sapiens, right? The twice smart human, twice intelligent
Mhm.
human. What else?
Inquisitive.
Huh?
Inquisitive.
Inquisitive, curious, inquisitive, right. I'm going to write curious, even though I like inquisitive better, because there's just not enough room. Okay. Now let's take it to the other side, and we can keep going with this, but take it to the other side for a moment. And you don't have to shout out things relating to you specifically. I'll throw myself under that bus just for the sake of example, okay? So,
when you do so, will you say crumbs?
when I throw myself under the bus?
Yeah.
Yeah. I do this every day, Orman. I'm an engineer by trade. Explains my handwriting. I speak 7 languages to various degrees of fluencies. You know what we didn't put over here? Communicative. That's going to be important in a minute.
Add kind on the left hand side. I don't know if that's a trait for any other animal.
Kindness.
Yeah.
On this side?
On the left, yes.
Okay. I'm going to probably end up helping you refine that word, Sachin, in a few minutes here, if you're okay with that.
Sure.
Husband. I love to play the guitar. What else? I'm naturally curious.
Yes, what are you doing on that side?
Huh?
I missed something here. What I missed it. I missed something. What's that?
I'm talking about me as a person, as opposed to just a member of the human race, right? Something that
you mean actually you, Pierce, or you? The
we'll get to there. Yeah, we'll get to that. Yes, and both actually, Orman.
It's Gemini then, are you?
Yeah, right. Okay, so you get the idea. Right now you should have a piece of paper, and what I would really encourage you to do is to take this exercise away and actually try to enhance it a bit more. But now I'm going to ask myself the question of what I was actually born with and what was added to me as a human. I was born with the ability to breathe. I was born with 2 legs. I was born with the capability to reason, although sometimes I may actuate that and sometimes I may not. I was born with an innate curiosity, I do believe. Thumb, combative. Not sure if that's the right word. Competitive.
No, that's not bad coming from a kung fu master, is it? Come on.
Yeah, right.
Combative, you know.
What about communication? Let's take this one here, because this can get tricky, right? Language and communication. Let me ask you a question. If you are a teacher by trade, in other words, you know, you're a school teacher, a professor, whatever the case may be, is that really what you are? Because understand that a person can be a teacher as a profession, but a person can also inherently have a nature about them that is drawn towards teaching, that has nothing to do with what they went to school for or what profession they fell into.
How about natural leader?
Natural leader, yes. Leadership, right.
Mm.
And clearly, not everyone is a natural leader, are they?
Right.
So we can't put it on this side, but that does seem to be like sort of an innate quality. Now, I went to school for engineering, so let's strike that off, but I could put something else in its place. I have a good mind for math, numbers, how things work, how things fit together. Maybe that's.
I suppose a lot of that comes from whether you're talking about engineer as a career or whether you're talking about an inventiveness of mind that drew you into the career as an engineer.
Yes.
So if you've got an inventiveness who automatically wants to see how things work and how things go together and what makes things work, then it's that bit that informed your being an engineer.
Right.
If you see what I mean.
Yeah, I absolutely do. Okay, so we'll keep that. We'll strike engineer. What about guitar? I don't think guitar belongs in there, but having an inclination for music, which actually probably also ties into the linguistic ability and the engineering, because it's all part of the same part of the brain, doesn't it? What about 7 languages? I don't think that one belongs in there, but maybe a propensity for language.
Can you really speak 7 languages?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, to varying degrees. I used to be much more fluent in several.
It never ceased to surprise me in all the decades of time I've known you.
我会说一点普通话，可是我说的不好。
And you're showing that right now, aren't you?
Huh?
You're an amazing man, and you're showing that right now in front of it. See, I love people that can give good account of themselves. And one must be seen to be believed.
Right.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah, it is, absolutely.
I love it. It's good stuff, man. Carry on.
Okay. So maybe a natural wiring to be able to learn languages, but everyone has that when they're a child. So I don't know. I'm going to leave that one as a question mark. I really am. Father, that's easy. Right? Because I mean, you either are or you aren't, and yet it's not so easy because there's obviously a difference between what we call, the male half of the equation, the sperm donor, and being an actual father. Husband, that's easy too. Just go down to the courthouse, but is it? Right? Do I have a natural propensity towards these types of things? Maybe. These are the questions I want you to ask yourself. I'm just using myself as an example. And I have spent a lot of time working through much of this. And each time I do it, more comes of it. Leadership, as Orman pointed out. Yeah, I would say probably a very strong sense of leadership naturally in me. Otherwise, I would never be drawn to be able to do things like what I'm doing right now.
So you're an alpha male.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's supposed to be natural, isn't it? I mean, dogs do it without an education. They do it because it's natural within their rhythms of life, etc.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
I
could write.
Yeah, but you see, the thing is, in human points of view, I mean, mostly the dominant alpha is a woman. What about the Amazon woman? Look at the transient head of every family tree. Say in China, as an example, which has an antiquity of family trees. It's always a woman. She's the great big boss and also the best kung fu merchant around, isn't she?
Yeah.
But, do you think that dominance is based in the fact that women belong to the planet more than men, or something like that?
There's a very big mystery in that because we are called mankind in general, aren't we? However, that's because we're foreign, aren't we? We're foreign to the planet. We appear male and female, kind of appear that way. But yes, I absolutely agree, Orman. Ladies are much more connected to the planet, and I think part of being alpha is to be able to be responsive to something.
So you would agree with me then that this is a feminine planet?
Absolutely.
And that really
all the evidence is there.
Women have a higher right of life than men. Now, this is dangerous talk. You realize this, don't you? This is like going to rub up the pride of every masculine alpha male from here to Kingdom Come and back, isn't it?
Well, it's probably about time, isn't it?
What I don't know about that.
It's interesting that you gentlemen are saying that in the Bible, and I'm not saying I agree with this because it's meant to be negative, but they'll talk about the men of God and the daughters of earth.
Ah,
Exactly right. Yes.
And they'll do, it's meant to be negative, but it's, you know, it's not. But there is the daughters of the earth that corrupted the men of God.
Clever, weren't they?
yeah.
Not that I believe that, but
I do. I'm sorry, but I do, Sandra. I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right.
what I'm saying is I don't believe it, they
Look,
corrupted. I don't believe it as a negative.
when you look at this planet for what it really is, it is one huge maternity wall. I mean, it will support any kind of life that lives on its environment or within its environment. You show me one kind of life that exists here that shouldn't be here because it can live here. This is, men don't give birth, women do. You understand? So if that is the case, then women have a greater connection to the planet as an entity of life within themselves. That means their influences, their feelings, their inclinations, their content, their female being is closer to the planetary process of things than men are. Men require a church, which women don't. So they put them in a back room. Even in Christian times, they put the women in the back because.
And I agree. That's what I'm saying. I agree. And I say what I don't agree with is that saying the daughters of earth is negative. I agree it's a positive.
I said that God is.
Yeah.
No,
God is
I'm
of
saying
earth.
I disagree with the Bible.
Oh, I see. Oh, well, I quite agree with you. There's a lot we all disagree with the Bible, all right? Especially if we live the way we live today.
Yeah.
Okay, you know. But if we look at the natural, I'm sorry, Piers. I do
Please.
apologize. No.
Please. Like I said, Orman, this is dialogue.
Because I've got a mouth bigger than my brains. You know, engage brains before operating mouth instead of engage mouth before operating brain. You know, I mean, which way? Shut up, Zare. I mean, what else do you say? You know, I tell you what, if you believe in reincarnation, I know something about Zaya no one else does. He was Captain Pugwash in his last life. I'm sorry, if you don't know who Captain Pugwash, he was a cartoon character in English, and he was a very strange guy, but he ran this very little strange kind of boat that amused children. And you know what? They didn't publish the last episode of it because Captain Pugwash committed suicide. And that's a very strange story, but I promise you, it's the absolute truth. And it'd been there for years, hadn't it? Now, I'm not saying Zaya's going to do that. If you are, you know, send him a check. He's all right. When he gets a check, he's fine. He doesn't do things like that. But who are we is what this is about, wasn't it? Who and what we are.
Yes.
So
Yes.
if one asks oneself, what are we? Or should we say better, what am I?
Mm-hmm.
What am I is more what you can count on in another than who we are. You know, like the chain gang, I call them, local mayors, city councillors. They've all got these chains around them with emblems of power. But, you know, I call it the chain gang. But they're only temporary. They only last a few years and then they're gone. Then someone else appears. That's the who of life, isn't it? But the what is what you are. It's what you end up with. You start with a what and you end up with another one. That's what you've made during those two times. So what you are counts more than who you are. Who's a personality? What is the content of oneself? And if the content of oneself has a shape, then the things you're talking about, the principles by which you live, are what are responsible for the shape of what you are, right?
Yes.
Wouldn't you say so? I would have thought so.
Yeah. And it brings up something it brings up something in me to do with an obligation, but not an enforcement. The obligation to, once you get a sense of what you are, not who you are, right? Pierce the entity, not pierce the father, engineer, all this type of stuff. Once you get a sense of that, it's almost like you have the palette now with which to work. You know what the ingredients of what kind of came into you, and knowing the ingredients, don't you then have an obligation to try to fulfill those as much as possible? I do.
Well, obligation to who?
See, that's what I meant. It's not an
Or
enforcement.
obligation to what? See,
Yeah.
if I'm going to go on the search for truth, now I've been around the world twice.
Hmm.
I once went first class, and then I went backpack. I did. So I've seen it from both angles, And the point is that when you get there, there's nothing there. It's just the same as where you left. And so you end up coming back, and then you begin to be different.
Yeah.
Because what you are is different. And you leave as a who and come back as a what.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you're going to go in the search of truth, you want to do so from what is actually you, rather than who you think you are, or who you would like to be, or the who is really just a temporary behavior of your cultural self rather than your cultural life, right?
Yep. Very true. Yeah. So then what does it mean to live by what one is? Now that we have a bit of a context for this, what does it mean to live by what one is? It's easier said than done, isn't it? I mean, that's an action, isn't it? That's not just a sentiment. It's not just a statement. To live by what one is requires something.
Mhm. Well, it starts off with a recognition of what one isn't. Yeah. And it's all those layers that we have upon ourselves, whether cultural, societal, religion, all class, culture, all of these geographical, all of the things that we believe goes into who we are.
Yeah.
It's that recognizing what aspects of those actually are and which ones aren't. I mean, and I think once you start picking through some of those things, it's kind of like carefully. You don't want to, you don't want to plunk somebody where they pull it and everything comes crashing down, and all of a sudden they've got a chaos going on inside them that they can't handle. But one by one, if you carefully unpick some of these things and say, yes, that still holds. Yes, that one still holds. No, that one actually doesn't. And
So
I think
Mike,
that's the thing. Yeah.
Let me put a question to you then.
Mm-hmm.
Because it sounds to me like you have done this exercise in some form or another, right? This kind of distinction between what one is and who one is. Do you find it settling or unsettling? That's my question to you. Do you find it settling to come to this understanding of what you are, or do you find it unsettling?
Well, once you get through the initial scary oh bugger stage, it's actually very settling. But well, it certainly was for me. It certainly was for me. But I wouldn't recommend people use my choose my path of getting through it.
Well, it wouldn't be them, would it? Wouldn't be what they are.
Yes. But I mean, I say I wouldn't recommend they use my methods particularly, or the methods that were thrust upon me, the circumstances. However, once it afforded me the opportunity, because I'm one of these natural, I see the opportunities rather than the threats more obviously. So once I see that I was provided with the opportunity for these things to fall away, that it's unsettling initially, because you can spend time thinking, well, all of the things I thought I was not the case. And it can create a void, a huge vacuum within people, implosion. So, but if it's done carefully, I think it was very, very liberating. Very liberating.
All right, good. I see someone popping up with a question. Who wants to just jump in? I see two chats, but it's too small for me to see from here.
Basically,
here.
Erin wants to people to introduce themselves because she's new.
Ah,
And
She, not he. Hey, you're not only down your
yes. Hello,
blind.
Erin. Erin, it was. Jump in.
Erin, it's a nice looking woman sitting there. What are you talking
Oh,
about? You
I'm
can't
just-
say things like that. How dare you?
if I had $1 for every time someone called me a he, I'd be retired by now. But no, I'm so fascinated, and
he's dropping me in it again. I don't like this.
Oh, no, it's your own.
What's
I
Here's
hate
your old Captain Hogwash.
Exactly. Yes.
what caught you, Erin?
so
I am
there's-
the only one who saw who is new. Please disregard this request, but would it be possible for everyone to introduce themselves? I am fascinated by the folks who are speaking, and my curiosity is enormous. I am confident that I will learn more as I attend additional sessions, so please don't put too much leverage into this ask.
Wow,
It's very American to put it that way, isn't it? Into
very
this
well. I think it's actually quite well put.
Well, everybody should be able to give account of themselves, at least in their name, shouldn't they? I mean, people have been here but never shown their face. What is the fear of being seen? You know, because there are 9,500 million people in this world. Why would the world be against the one person who's afraid of being seen? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a fair request. I'm Orman. I've been in this sort of work all my life. I woke up like it. It's done nothing but get me into trouble. I am not joking. I can tell you stories you wouldn't believe. Yeah, I love every single moment of it, including this kind of minute, which is great because I can't think of anything better else to do than to actually come to understand or learn or know what I am, rather than who I am, or who I may be, or who I think I am, or who someone else thinks I am. You know, because if I was to count on something that could be there tomorrow morning when I wake up, as you expect the daylight to be there, we're very familiar with the fact that it is. I want to see myself there, the same as it was when I went to bed. And even to the extent where when I die, or when this body dies, I want to see myself standing there the instance that's happened, what I am. Do you understand what I mean? So if it's possible day and night, it must be possible lifetime to lifetime. And if so, think about the potential that that offers in a person's life. I mean, seriously. That. Why shouldn't the esoteric journey or the journey to the truth of oneself and these kinds of things be such a dramatic, heavy, unconditional surrender to their view, when nature itself is the most loving thing that ever set foot on the face of this planet? Wouldn't you think so?
Yes, I share that sentiment.
Well, exactly, and that's how I feel about it. My sentiments are that is possible for all people, never mind the Fifth Amendment, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's me, Erin.
Great.
Thank you.
Here we go. And if you're going to make any confessions, can I please have your name and address before you do? I want to blackmail the crap out of you. All right. It's not.
I think Zaire already has that job.
Yeah.
Recording.
Yeah. I'll be back. I'm coming.
Yeah.
The thing is, Orman, in order to be able to blackmail someone, they've got to have money or shame, and I have neither. So be my guest.
There you go. Right. Erin, did you have another question? You a moment ago kind of expressed, or at least I picked up on something you were caught by, other than just the introductions. Can you jump into that a bit?
So I kind of feel like I'm walking into a movie halfway through, or maybe even more than halfway through. So let me just tell you about me, just so I can frame myself. So
Sure.
found this group through Meetup. I'm an
Mhm.
organizer for a group that's not spiritual or anything like that. Ladies over 50 finding friends. Very simple, very basic. But I've been definitely exploring some different, bigger world, more heady groups lately. Saw this one pop up, was super excited. And I feel like what are we into this? 47 minutes into this, and I feel like I've learned so much. And it's not concrete learning. It's not something you could write down on paper and put on a syllabus, but I love interacting with people who think this way, who talk this way, talking about religion and spirituality and, who I am, what I am. And so I just didn't know if there were other people like me who are kind of new, or if you guys have been for years and years and years. I just wanted to kind of get a beat on that.
Right. Okay, I understand. So I believe it's probably kind of a big mix of both. I'm the organizer of this, these workshops, I should say. Okay. From a standpoint of from my life to what I do into the world, I guess would be the right way to put it. It's a work of life for me. Like Orman, I've been at it all my life as well, but many less years than he has been at it. And you'll find, I think, in this group that we've got a very wide variety of people. I just started many of these meetups, a month ago, 2 months ago, a couple weeks ago for some of them. So I'm not sure which one you belong to, but we've got 20 of them all across the United States. And you see we've got people popping in from the UK and so on and so forth.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So
we're friendly with America.
Huh? Yeah.
Yeah, and like Mike, hey Mike, I've got something to say. Blackmail is only possible if you're afraid of the truth, right?
Indeed, yes.
Oh, brother. Here you go.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Jared.
So, Aaron, what I would say.
Jared says, is this moderated? I'm having a hard time following what is going on.
Right. No, it's unmoderated to a degree. And the reason why is because I want this to be a living expression. And, life can be messy. Life can go in different directions. You can wake up one morning and discover, something incredibly new. I do have a kind of a path in mind, but it's not moderated from the standpoint of like, this is a pre-canned kind of session, right? Okay. We can get back on track though. No, I don't think we're off track.
Oh, well.
Yeah. Well, let's look at the second one then. To live by what one stands for. Listen, okay, before we do that, I have to say this because this is just beginning to open up this territory. It's not like we've solved the what of us versus the who of us. We're just trying to get into the territory of what it means to live by what one is. And the reason for it is simple, because if you know, or at least if you have a sense of what you are, then you know what you're working with. Yeah. Nothing else is possible before that. If you find some strange machine on a road and decide to take it home to, and expect it to slice bread, and it's not designed to slice bread, it's going to be a failed attempt, isn't it? Because that's not what it's meant to do. So that's where I'm coming from with this. But again, it's an open question. It's not my place to tell you what you are. That's yours, right? So anyway, moving on to live by what one stands for. This is tricky because really what's being spoken of here, I would say, is standards. But we have such a ambiguous view of things like standards, of things like morals, of principles, of values. And I think if you ask most people, you just bump into somebody on the street, hey, excuse me, do you have a moment? do you have standards? People will say, oh yeah, of course I have standards, right? I mean, who's going to say, no, I have no standards? Maybe a few people out there would, but by and large, everyone would admit to having standards. And then you say, okay, great. What are they? And you're going to find this pause. And what that pause is their brain then scrambling to find an answer. Yeah. No one's going to be like, I stand for this, I stand for that, I stand for that, I stand for that. I shouldn't say no one. There are people like that. This is some of this work that we're trying to do. But
Can I
for the
ask you
most
a
part,
question?
yeah.
Sorry to cut you in midstream there.
It's okay. So,
We are what we are.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I can't be anything other than what I am, but I can be something I'm not, because everybody has an outer life and an inner life, and my outer life is more gregarious than my inner life.
Mm.
Gregarious means sort of like kind of outwardly flamboyant, as an example.
Yes.
Now, when you says to live by what one stands for, I mean, that immediately brings to mind with me 3 different things. Bells, church bells, cocks, the ones that go, cock-a-doodle-oo, see, and jurisdiction. I mean, from whom does the bell toll, right? And didn't the cock crow 3 times when the man was asked to say what he was and he denied it? Yes.
Yeah.
And then you've got jurisdiction, which is what they say is the natural law of man, but actually, like the 10 Commandments is an example, which we've got 172,000 laws in this country trying to enforce it, etc. See?
Right.
So how does one stand for what you are in the middle of all of that? Because immediately it becomes a problem, because what have you got to alter in yourself to be able to stand up as yourself? Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Well,
sorry. I'm
no.
not, actually, I'm not sorry. I'm pleased. Thank you for listening. Thank you. Good.
It raises kind of an interesting conundrum, going back to the ambiguity of morals, standards, values, principles, all these types of things that we just banter around. Most people will admit to holding the standard or the moral or the value of not to steal, right? I agree, most people would hold that. I don't steal. The Bible says don't steal, whatever the case may be. And yet, if you think about it from this standpoint, if you have not done the work of principled reasoning as to why you hold a standard like that or any other, then aren't you stealing? Aren't you stealing a sentiment that doesn't belong to you? Because unless you've done the work of it, or unless you were born with it, it's not really yours, is it? It's something that has been imposed upon you through religion, through your parents, through whatever the case may be. And so, Orman, for me, this comes down to a process of principled reasoning. And what I mean by that is to take something that I find in myself, dismantle it, look at it, examine it for what it is, polish it up. And polish it if I find it useful. If I don't, get rid of it. But if I find it useful, polish it up, get rid of the rough edges, reassemble it, and then actually own it for my own life. That's what I mean by standards, the development of standards.
You're Pierce. I mean, you're the man. But how does an ordinary person, us normals, do that? How do we do that?
I'll tell you exactly how you do that.
That's it. I mean, I'm sorry I'm going like this. It's all right. It's just I'm taking these tablets for a medical complaint, and they're giving me a breast augmentation. Can you already see it? Look, I'm thinking about double D46 or something, I mean, kind of like it's, it happens in life, right? It's the medication. So how am I supposed to carry on as a man if I'm sponsored like a woman. I mean, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, you yourself, I mean, how do you live by these things?
Yeah.
How do you live by them?
I'll
I know we're friends. We've been on friends a long time, but we've always bantered between us. I think
it's the tuning fork.
you should
That's how I
see
do
the
it.
real arguments that go on where no one sees the making of what he is and the making of what I am as well, because of the things that we come to in the work we do. Share the work for so long, but it comes to something, and what's the point of it?
I'm going to answer your question.
A result. I mean, you've got to have a result. Otherwise, what's the point of doing it? You're just wasting your life. It's a role. It's an act. It's not true. It's not real. So what is a real thing you stand for?
I'm going to answer that by way of an example from my life. And it's having to do with the aspect of care. You see, I've added up on my journey that care is it's a universal quality. It's a quality of creation. It is something that is in all life and in all things because it is fundamental aspect to creation. And so here's my approach to that. Now, you may or may not agree with me, those of you out there, but I'm just giving you my own personal view of it. Now, I know this trick or this certain process, and it's called the tuning fork principle. And if I decide that I want more care in my life, in other words, we haven't gotten to the point of standards yet, because this is just a acquisition of a value. Standards come much later. But the thing that I do is I go out and I look for it. I look for natural examples of care in the natural world, I should say, right? And I'm sure many of you can think of examples of care in nature. I think probably the most readily available one is looking at how mothers care for their young, right? Their offspring. Now, I'm going to leave human mothers aside on this one because that's not always the case there, is it? But in the natural world, they do. Now, I'll present you with a challenge that really shows the difference between morals and values when it comes to the idea of care, or I should say standards when it comes to the idea of care. Because if a lion gives birth to several cubs and there's not enough food to go around for, let's say she gives birth to 5 cubs and there's just not enough food to go around, right? That she's in a starving environment, whatever the case may be. She'll pick the weakest one and she'll eat it so that the other 4 might survive. Now, where does that place care on the spectrum of things, right? Because immediately our training and our upbringing, our morals and the things that we've been told and the things that we really think about care in the universe has this kind of shock value with it, doesn't it? Like, oh my God, it just ate its cub, right? Gross, number one, right? Which it isn't gross. And number 2, how could a mother do that? And yet at the same time, if you can come to this kind of appreciation for the way that nature expresses care, is that if she didn't do that, all of the cubs would die, wouldn't they? Right? And so it comes from a higher principle than just care for your young. Yeah. Now, this is just an example. This happens in the natural world, but the idea, in order to acquire something like a standard, to get from a value to a standard, is that I come to this conclusion that, okay, care is a natural aspect of our universe in which we live. And I value it. I really do. I want to see more of it. I have come to the idea that I support that. I want to enhance that. I want to promote it wherever I can find it in the universe. And the way that you collect examples, here's how it works. The tuning fork principle goes like this, right? If I have a tuning fork tuned to the note A, a tuning fork like you tune a piano or a guitar or whatever with, tuned to the note A, and I hand the tuning fork another one tuned to the same note to someone else and stand some distance away, and if I strike mine, it resonates, she would be able to actually hear her tuning fork singing along, even though she didn't strike it. This is the way we attract forces, we attract things, more of things into our life. It has to do with what we focus on and what we tune ourselves into. And so by going out and actually making the effort to look for examples in the natural world, something amazing, something extraordinary happens. At first, it's an academic endeavor. You know, you're seeking. I don't mean academic in the way of like college, academic in the way of colleges or things like that, but academic in the way of, I put out that effort, yeah, and I went on that search for where care shows up in the world, and then suddenly something happened, where all of a sudden I made that connection, not just to kind of what we call care in our society, but what really isn't, but to that actual aspect of care in the universe. And it's at that point in time that I'm able to actually make a value statement. I can say, you know, I uphold care as an entity, Pierce, as an entity who has a connection to the essence of care in the universe. I uphold it wherever I see it. I promote it wherever I see it. And there's one word that makes that transition from something that you value, that's just a value statement, to it becoming a standard, or should I actually say something in my life that I stand for, yeah, to live by what one stands for. And that one word is therefore. Most powerful word in this sentence that never gets used. Therefore, I will do things, right? I can't just say, oh yeah, I love care. Care is great, like it, yeah? Therefore, I will do this to promote it. I will do that to promote it. And let me ask you a question. If someone says that they have care, and you walk through their house and it's completely filthy, how believable is that? See, because someone with actual care wouldn't be able to let their house, let their home get in disarray, right? Someone with care wouldn't be able to walk past something that needs tending to in their home and not tend to it, not fix it. Yeah. So it's the therefore that becomes a standard. And you know that I don't even think the key word in any of these are the ones that I have underlined. It's not is, stands for, believes, you know, covenant, and so on and so forth. I think the key word really is live by, because these are actions. You have to actually do something. Just holding a value doesn't, and it's worthless, basically, you know? So that's my answer, Orman, about how I stand for things in my life, how I get to that point. And it's not just care.
I'm sorry, I switched it up by mistake. You mean you were answering me?
Yeah, just in a very long roundabout way.
About yourself.
I did.
Well, so how can you be answering me then?
Oh, you asked the question.
That don't make that. No, you can't do that. You can't do that.
I just did.
I'd just like to say one thing. There's a very ancient Pierce Chinese saying that he once said to me. Unwanted charity and care can also be a tyranny.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah, because it's
I mean, like Mike, who lives his own life because it's his choice. If you knew the story of Mike, his answer was excellent. It was amazing for the man himself, because there was the man himself answering him. And like Torsten, Mr. Empath, we call him now, he's been around so long, he's lasted more than 5 visits, you know. I mean, we call them old timers now. Have you noticed we've been dwindled down to about 11 or 12 people? I mean, you know, we're slowly losing.
It's okay.
Sachin's arrived at last. Sachin, why aren't you present all the time? I mean,
I'm present all the time.
What is wrong with your face? I like you. I like you. I like it. You know, I sometimes wish I was a bit like you, you know, with that. I like the teeth. Mine aren't real. I got mine from the British government. They're called
Yeah, he's good looking, you're not.
Well, I never said I was in the first place, you Wally. No, you see, this is the point. Why do we have to act a certain way? Don't you think that's important? Because I know that when you travel the esoteric, people do not know how to be with what they get, what they find, or how they are. How do you move yourself from the role of your life and say you want to be esoteric, but then you find that the esoteric actually is what you should have been in the first place. So esoteric is just a lie, isn't it? But what about occult? That's the same. But then what are you when these new attributes of learning, development, or accomplishment, you know, the usual trilogy, I mean, mean your life rather than your profession? Or your business, or your bank balance, or your wife. And I mean, come on, seriously. See, there's the problem, isn't it? You address a culture of people which could number 9,000 million. I mean, it's not exactly a small number. So if I said to all of you, I'll give everybody in this world a penny, do you know how much 9,600 million pennies are worth? I don't have that much money. And there's one thing money can't buy. It can't buy back your history. So you are already what you are, aren't you? So your problem isn't what you become, it's how do you escape yourself? Because yourself won't let you be anything other than what you actually are at that time. But it's not what you are, it could be a who you are. So I was always, you know, interested in why swans swim across a pond with such elegance, such manifest life, shape and form, until I realized that swans can see into the unseen where we can't. So they carry something in between those wings across the water. Now, there's a very famous, world famous, very rich, what's his name? That very strange artist who's got, I can't think of his name at the moment, but why are you sitting down? I'm boring you, aren't I? Sorry.
No, stretch
No.
it.
Well, what's his name? That artist who does all those strange pictures and whatever else.
Dali, Salvador Dali.
Dali, I'm sorry, I knew it began with a D, but I didn't want to say it begins with a D because D's the lowest. It's the lowest letter of the alphabet, isn't it? D. You know what I mean? You can find more words that are wrong with D than you can, you know, uplifting. Anyway, see, Salvador Dali saw this. He even tried to build himself a couple of swan boats because he wanted to be the earth life form that swans associate with that humans cannot. Whoever says that we are the boss, humans say, oh, we're the most significant life form on this planet. But I can tell you what, I can defeat that. I can show you ways in which you'll be ashamed to be human. Not from what they've done before, but I'm talking about the life scale against the creational picture. So if I've got to live by live by what I stand for, is it a creational thing? Is it a planetary thing? Is it a cultural thing? Is it a peers thing? What kind of a thing is it, my friend?
I think it depends on the assemblies that are you're able to develop in yourself. How you're going to write that to yourself, whether it's a creational thing or not.
Well, you know what? I reckon it's something that gives you a winning chance.
Can I just say something?
Who
Yeah.
said?
My name's Travis.
Hi, Travis.
What we've got to remember.
Travis,
What
we
we
can't
this,
see
this
you.
I know it's only because it's recording, mate. I don't feel comfortable.
What do you
If
mean
it wasn't recording,
my computer can record and see too.
no, I know my camera
Travis.
will come on. It's because it's recording.
Travis, if you wish, I'll cut this part out.
Hey, you sound like a
Yeah,
Jordan.
I'm eating chips as well. So that's
Okay,
that's
yeah,
just
Jordan,
got
man,
because
I told you.
in England.
I'm surprised.
In
Go on.
England, it's 6 o'clock, right? So yeah, we've got to remember, right? What separates us from the birds? We have something that animals and birds and fish don't have. We have an
That's
intellect.
called a
We have
bird and animal.
we have, yeah. Well, what I'm saying, creatures, whatever you want to label it as, we have the ability to think. We have an intelligence in that sense. We can reject information or we can accept it. We have an imagination. So this
nobody else in creation, nothing. I should have said. Nothing.
Yeah, but no. Well, a monkey couldn't build a house, or humans have the ability. That's obvious, isn't it? We have an intellect, so we have the ability to think and make conscious thoughts and change our. No, we're obviously separate from the animal kingdom. We have so in that sense, we could trap an elephant, but physically an elephant's stronger than us. But
I love people like this. So does Pierce. You are lining yourself up for a big session with us two. I can tell you that now for a start. This is the point. Now, hang on, Travis, please. First time we've ever encountered, right? I will point to you. Yes, you are right. I can only pick up my thing and put it down and say, yes, the man is right, from the standpoint that humans aren't planetary. They're more than that.
Yeah, right, okay. In that sense, yeah, we are physical.
Now, yes, but you see, we have, here, Pierce, are you with this?
Yes.
Okay. We have more ability, more promise, more evolutionary aspects, more ascendance than the ordinary planetary life, because, as an example, physically, to be planetary, you need 4 legs, not 2 legs and 2 arms. So even though every life form you look at has something of a pentagrammic shape in it, we, the human, are that best pentagrammic form and shape that you could possibly have on a planet. So we've got possibilities beyond the planetary level of creation. Now that is extremely esoteric. And it's true what you say, but did you know that it was like that? Did you know that such a possibility was the case behind what you were saying?
I think it's all about consciousness, isn't it? It's awareness.
Well,
We're not aware of it.
No, you're right. See, here he is. That's the second time. He's right, but wrong. And the same thing, see? Because all you get on a planetary domain of life is not consciousness, it's awakeness. The planetary life only has the possibility of being awakened. Fully awakened is the best you'll get on a planet. But if you ascend upon the creational development of things, I know, in the creational bar, the ray of creation, there's thousands of names in the esoteric domain as well as occult, then you've got to say that at the sun level, the basic requirement for life on the sun, sun level, is conscious. But because there are conscious entities of life here, i.e. human, this planet is capable of nurturing a conscious culture. And that's what you've got here, simply because of its actuality in the creational scale of things. But there's more than that, Travis. You can go even further than that, right, Pierce? And that is, you can go to solar. We live in a solar system. Do you know, from an occult and an esoteric point of view, the solar system is the smallest cellular unit of life form at creational level. Like you've got simple cells in your body, of which you are probably 10 billion trillion of them put together, and you are the governor, you're the god of it, you're the boss. That solar system that we live in here, this one, is a simple cell of a creational process of things. And we, the human, have the possibility to ascend in our life to solar level. In our animated, which is a beyond consciousness, animated nature of life. So you have the awakened life possibility, you have the conscious life, thank you, Pierce, possibility, and then you have the animated possibility of life. Now, I don't mean pictures on a paper. I don't mean, you know, 1 dimension, 2 dimension, 3 dimension. I'm talking about the actual alive nature of what we actually are as a being of life. Somewhere in you, you have an entity of self, and it's the entity of self in self that is the animated you. But do you know what? I guarantee you, during your lifetime, you've rarely been that person. Hey, there. See, Pierce is right. Hey, Pierce, are you going to take over, or have I got to take over?
You're doing great.
I know we're friends, but you're the boss here. This is your session. This isn't mine. I do mine on WebEx. I don't do mine.
Question's right here. He's here. He's here.
Oh, okay, man. Well, come on in. Show your face. You can't walk out of this.
I'll switch it back in a moment.
I feel better when you're, you know, I need to hold on to your hands, you know, because you're the man. Anyway, the thing is that where do you see what is such a thing as, if this is possible, it means there's an animated cultural life, there's an animated personal self, there's an animated awareness, consciousness, and there's an animated vibration of life, there's an animated impression of life. There's more than just what you see. When I look out of here, I wish I could show you with my camera, but it's fixed to the screen. The people walking past, they're not animated. They're not conscious. They're even hardly awake. They think they are, but it's not their life. When I see 20,000 people, I live right in the middle of one of the oldest cities in England. 2,600 years it's been here. You've got a big culture, you know. I mean, they're going shopping for a pair of boots. So did the Romans 2,000 years ago. I mean, what's changed? Nothing. They think it's them, but they're part, and it's not. They live in a culture. The culture is living its life in them. They're not having a life. They're the pawn in which the culture lives. So it's the culture that's having a life, not them. Do you understand? I've said it before, and I'll say it again. So consciousness is, look what he's doing. See what I mean? Consciousness is a higher process of life form than planetary, because your higher self, which you all have the possibility of, is one which has a conscious nature of life about it, rather than just an animated, rather than just an awakened. I do apologize. So you have 3 domains of life: astral, ethereal, and animated. These are the 3 domains that the human being is possible to create embodiments within itself in different places to do with those 3 domains of life, which it has the perfect right, by the fact it exists here and lives here and is awake here, to be part of. So you can astral travel, but where do you see on YouTube anything about ethereal travel or the ethereal embodiment? Where does anybody say about the animated domains of life? Nothing. Do you know why? Because they don't know. Because they're still struggling to be themselves. They're struggling to learn this. This is what is called new knowledge, Travis. Now, that's my bit. This is...
That's your opinion. Sorry. No. Sorry, that's not your bit.
It's not an argument. It's fine. But I'm just
saying...
No,
that's what I mean. It's an opinion. It's not fact.
Apparent everywhere. You can see them for yourself.
But again, though, that's perception. So we opinionate on perception.
Oh, no, we're not.
Right.
Intuition.
Yeah, excuse me, sorry. When you said about them people outside, and you're right, this day and age, a lot of people definitely don't know who they are. They are semi-conscious because they live in the phones. They live in the mind. They live on Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. That's their reality. And they're addicted. We know that. We can blatant in front of us, but we don't have to analyze it too much. We know we're consciousness. We know, we know we experience.
Knowing doesn't go with consciousness. Yeah. Listen to me. Knowing,
Let me.
perception
Can
is
I-
an
Can I
awakened life.
just? Can I just
Tuition.
yeah, sorry. Can I just continue?
Foundation goes
Can I
with
just continue?
consciousness.
Yeah. Can I just continue for a minute, please? Because we let you speak.
Yes.
And
Yeah, I know.
everyone's got
Fine,
different
thank you.
opinions. But we know we're consciousness. We know that. We know we see the world through our five senses. We see it, we taste it, we touch it, we smell it, and we hear it. We know this. We know we're susceptible to other beliefs about people's ideas, which we call religion. We know we can be influenced. We know all these things, but we don't know who we are, meaning that spiritual side to ourselves, or that cosmic, universal, energy, vibrational frequency that's the true I amness. That's that we don't know, and we can't articulate it because it that side of us has no sense. It makes no sense. It's all becoming all powerful. It's the name of God, isn't it? And what did in the Bible, it says what God's name, what the burning bush. He said, what's your name? And the burning bush, which apparently God said, I am. And then obviously, I am. What is this? Who are we? We all know we're creative beings. We know that. Because everything's a manifestation that was once a thought from a
Travis,
human's
can you
mind,
get
like
to,
this
can you get to the
conference.
point of what you're saying? Listen,
I'm getting, yeah,
I
to
don't
the
disagree
point.
with what you're saying, but it sounds like a ramble. Make a point. Listen, knowing
yeah.
is something that does not exist in a conscious way. Intuition belongs to conscious. Knowing belongs to the awakened. Perception and knowing are part of a process. Consciousness, intuition, realization is part of a process. Animation, vitalization, and alive is called. It's called alive. Being alive, not being in yourself, but the actuality of alive. That requires more than just a consciousness. Now, unless you know those things, everything else is a garble. Everything has a way of its own, including each level that we're talking about. So, yes, you're right, but it's very naive because there's no term of God in this, and there's no term of spiritual belonging to a God. What is spiritual? Because nobody answers it, but I'll tell you what, I can answer that. I'll tell you what spiritual is, but it's not what you think. So how do you get around yourself in this? Because you're fixed with a standard of life, which is what Pierce was talking about. And your belief in that standard is that spiritual is godly. It isn't godly. It is a fuel. And I can show you and I can prove to you how it is a fuel, you see? And that's why we're here doing what we're doing, right?
So, I'm not, the word spirit's a word, and we use words so we can recognize things. So we call that thing spirit, or we could call it cosmos energy. We could call it anything we want. It's just a word that articulates.
You can't, because it's got a name. You can't call it anything you want. Listen, you can't call Orman anything you want. Orman's got a name. We can't call you anything we like. I can say Oi instead of Travis. You know, that's fine if you like that, but Travis is Travis. So if you're real, you will only tell us you're Travis, not Oi.
Yeah, right.
And it's the same with these domains of light. No, it's all right. You're not at fault. Listen, I'm going to tell you something. You were all born as you were. You were all born now in this time. And it's not your fault what the human race did before you. And they left you with the problem of sorting out their mistakes because you're not perfect. You should have been perfect. The world should have been right. But you got these clever people in history who decided to do what they did. You got Rome interfering with the natural elements of life in each of us. The whole of the world has been at least 3 or 4 times, according to modern history, blown up by meteorites and gonna, you know, we should have been dinosaurs walking around at the moment. But how can you be yourself against the antiquity that we know about when we've been so interfered with? It's a wonder we've even got any consciousness left. Never mind about, do we have any? You understand? So you're not at fault. I do not and never will ever believe in a judgment day. It's bullshit. Judgment Day is crap. You are the only one that can accuse you of what you are. Especially in this age, because no one knows who they are. And you're right, Travis, in various areas of what you say, but no disrespect to you. The point is, what do you stand for? What do you stand for in your life? And this is where Pierce is, isn't it? What he's explaining, what does he stand for? So what, live by what one stands for.
Sorry, ask me the question, because I'm open and willing to answer anything. So what do you mean, what do I stand for? In what sense?
Well, what do you stand for as a life form?
Well,
we are life forms, aren't we?
Yeah, of course, right. So yeah, I'm a physical human being, which isn't perfect.
Right?
Okay, we all know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know that because we have thoughts, we have the ability to think, we have negative thoughts, positives. Some thoughts make us feel good, some are negative. Sometimes we suffer trauma, which will completely warp our sense of self, which happens on a massive scale, like child abuse and other things like that.
Have
so
you ever
yeah,
taken
this
drugs?
No, never.
Oh,
I work with.
You're one of the odd, aren't you? I mean, I never either.
No, I wouldn't do that. Why would I want to do that? Because I always think if you take a drug that can give you an altered state, why can't you just do that anyway? Why do you need the drug to do that for you?
When it gets out of hand, you'll be living on a sausage a week, because in the extreme sense of things, what you eat is what you are, right? What you breathe is what you are. What you think is what you are. Everything that you are is what you are. But how do you improve what you are on those terms and conditions?
But we can. Where do we start? And we start from changing the way we think.
Start here,
because some people, everywhere. If we're conscious beings, right, and we're in control of our own thoughts. Some people are very calm-minded and open-minded. Some are narrow-minded, and some people's minds race and speed. They usually talk really fast and confusing because they have no sense of identity. That's why they're searching desperately for the meaning of life. And they get into their 60s and they still don't know who they are. So they hide behind religion. We see that, we know this, but that's not the solution. The solution is maybe just stepping back from ourselves a little bit and just looking at what are we thinking? What's going on? What's causing our suffering? And look at it from that perception, because again, it's all about perception and just sort of reframing the way we think about the world. It's like, it's a terrible time for everybody. But there's nothing we can do about it. So we can cry or we can get on with it. We can change the way we look at things. And if everything is energy and frequency and stardust, we can change our reality through perception, because that must be the case if that's the truth. So when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. Because our world is inside, if you think about it. It's all internal anyway. What happens outside of ourselves, we've got no control over. Our world is within us. That's where the power is. That's my perception. So when you ask, who am I?
Right.
That's where the power of our living is, in the perception of how we see things in the so-called reality we're in. But how does then intuition come into this? Because intuition doesn't work the same as perception. If you look at perception and intuition, you've got the tortoise and the hare. The tortoise is your perception. The hare is your intuition. So intuition works for a faster, higher, finer process called consciousness. You can't use perception in a conscious process. It doesn't work. You can't put water in a petrol tank. It doesn't work. And that's the way nature is. And when you learn that nature has its rules and regulations, as natural law as an example, which is what Pierce said earlier on, intuition. How's your intuition, Travis? Does it work? What does your intuition say about
mine does very much so. It didn't used to, but
women have a natural intuition more than, men are perceptive, but women are intuitive. I mean, you ever seen a woman? I mean, you must have. You're going to look at property, and you walk in, you think, oh, this has got some potential in here. I can turn this 2-bedroom place into a 4-bedroom place. And then the woman says, no, we're not. I don't like the sense of this place. I'm not living here. That's her intuition. right? It always overrides the perception, right, Pierce?
Yeah, I actually want to pause for a moment and pull this back because it's becoming a conversation just with you and Travis. And I think
Sorry.
Jackie, no,
Travis,
it's fine.
talk again at another time at the moment. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Let's continue this because it does have value. That's not what I'm saying. But I think Jackie has a question, and if that question has now passed, then I want to provide a bridge between what was just being said there to kind of link it back in, because Travis, you did say something that really caught my attention, and it was so subtle, but I want to use that. Okay, fair. Jackie, did you have a question or comment?
Yeah, so I'm new here, and I just wanted to join this group because it's the title seemed really interesting and something I wanted to learn. And yeah, there's just a lot of disorganization. Someone was commenting about a moderator. I thought the point of a moderator is to like keep things organized, and so people just don't talk over each other. Just a lot is happening. So as someone who's new, like we're not really tracking what's going on. I would really like to listen more to Pierce, since he's the person actually setting this workshop, and as to what he has to say. Just a suggestion, if people want to talk or have a comment, to raise their hand, and if Pierce sees someone has a comment, he can let you guys know when to speak, instead of people just talking over each other and then just lose track of what's actually being taught. Just a suggestion.
Blue Watch. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes. I don't know how to raise my hand, but I have also a suggestion.
Okay.
If people speak, they will show their face on the camera. Then I have an interaction with something. Now I'm looking in a dark black hole. It can be anyone.
Yeah.
And it doesn't say anything to me if they don't show themselves. And if they live in fear, they might be able to change for the future if they are following these conversations, and I hope that they will let them see them in the future. But I think it's wise to show your face if you're talking.
Right. Thank you, Cassiopeia. So I'm going to take the stage for a moment because, look, first, please realize this. This is not rehearsed. This is not staged. This is life, right? We're all just gathered here to try to explore a certain topic. Travis, you made a comment a couple of times, and I want you to just sort of let me run with something here for a moment, and then I'll give you a moment too. But you said, that's just opinion. That's just your opinion, right? That's just your belief. That's your whatever. Yeah, you said that a couple of times. And it's 100% correct because there is an until. And I want to kind of pose the question to anyone who feels like answering it, but at what point in time does an opinion not become an opinion anymore? In other words, or a belief. At what point in time does a belief no longer be a belief? I'll give you an example. I'll give you 3 examples. 3 is always a good number, isn't it? Example number 1, is it reasonable for me to believe that I can drive a car if I've never once sat behind the wheel? Is it reasonable for me to believe that I can fly a helicopter if I haven't had a single lesson? Or is it reasonable for me to believe that I can expertly climb a mountain after just reading a book or watching it on television? You see, those are opinions. And in our culture, well, it's actually even wishful thinking, isn't it? Because there's very little difference between an opinion and wishful thinking. Something becomes a belief. I'll go back to this first example of driving a car. I don't believe I can drive a car. I just get in and do it, right? I don't have to go, geez, do I believe I can drive this car? No, because I have the experience. I've actually done it. I have the practice of having done it. And Travis, I think it's important to draw this distinction in here, because unless you have bridged that and actually have the experience of doing it, then yeah, you're right. It is just an opinion. Sorry, I had to fix something on the screen here. there's, again, I come back to this point where we're just so loose with things, right? So we live in this society, right? Let me ask you a question. Just kind of give me a verbal yes, because there's so many of you. Do you believe in clairvoyance? Telepathy, yes. Psychometry, yeah, clairvoyance, things like that, right? How about energy healing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. How about the afterlife and reincarnation? Do you believe in those things?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Gets tricky here. How about yourself? Actually, the last two are very tricky. Do you believe in yourself?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Now,
Yes.
for the most part, I would push back and say that 3 of those answers were nonsense for the most part. The last one was the real thing. Now, I'm not saying for all of you, but here's why I'm pushing back, because I threw in there, do you believe in the afterlife? Do you believe in reincarnation? That's sort of like believing that you can drive a car never having sat behind the wheel, unless you remember your previous life, and there are some among us who do. It's not a belief, is it? Right? Unless you have had an out-of-body experience or astral traveled or whatever, it's not a belief. It's wishful thinking. Unless you have moments of clairvoyance, telepathy, psychometry, whatever they call it, vibroturgy, whatever. It's not a belief, right? And yet everyone is proffering these types of things. And so one thing that I wanted to do with you folks today, Travis, are you following where I'm at with this? I appreciate you using the word belief, because this is really a bridge into, we have to distinguish what's bullshit, right, from what's actuality. And the only way that we can do that is through actual experience. Now, there are 5 aspects to this. It's not just experience belief, is it? There is, first comes experiment, right? It's a pentagram, isn't it? First comes the experiment. Then second comes the experience. Third comes belief, because that's the apex of the triangle, right? Fourth comes ability. And then 5th is the loss of belief. That's when you can actually do it. Let me go through those again. Experiment. You try things. You don't know yet. Experience. Belief, right? That's the triangle, I should say. Ability, and then loss of one's belief. Like I said before, I don't believe I can drive a car. I just do it. Belief never comes into it, right? I don't ask myself, gosh, oh yeah, right, I can drive a car, therefore I can go to the store. And it's important. I wanted to go through a couple of things. I talked about things like clairvoyance. I'm going to give you guys an exercise, because if you don't really, at least based on this template, believe in clairvoyance, start at the beginning, do an experiment. And I have one for you if you want to take it up and maybe follow this pentagrammic experiment, experience, believe, gain the ability, and lose belief. And the experience that you can gain, or the experiment, I should say, that you start with, is actually quite simple. Next time you find yourself on a bus, or in any kind of crowded area, in a train station, whatever, wherever there's a lot of people, pick somebody who's sort of in front of you, who has their back to you, and just begin to stare here, right at the base of their skull. I say with their back to you because, first of all, that's the only way you can stare at that part. Don't make it obvious. In other words, don't be a creep, right? But pick somebody and actually just start to stare at that. I already know for a fact what's going to happen, because I've done this many, many, many times, hundreds of times, actually. This is what confirmed at least the possibility of things like telepathy for me. They will turn around. Yeah. Now, they're not going to turn around like, why are you staring at me? They're going to turn around with this kind of look, where they just sort of scan you. They don't actually, it's something else in them that's looking at you, that wants to know, who is it that touches this life, right? Don't take my word for it. If you want to know if it's at least in the realms of possibility, just go try it. All right. And then you get an experience. If no one ever turns around, if you've tried it after 50 times and you've gotten 50 people that don't give you that sort of surveillance look, right, then that's your experience. I don't care. That's okay. I have a different experience. All right. There's that. What about
Can I ask a question?
yeah, all right.
So how is that clairvoyant?
No. Okay, let me yes, thank you. Let me clarify this. That is not clairvoyance. That is, let me put it this way. Let's say that I want to learn Hebrew. Okay. Now I already speak 7 languages. I don't speak Hebrew. Hebrew is not one of the languages that I speak. Am I right in forming a belief that I could probably learn to speak Hebrew? Yeah, probably. I mean, shoot, I've already done it 7 times with 7 other languages. I think that's pretty valid belief, but that's also based on my experience. That's evidence-based belief of something I think I probably could do because of what I've already done before. And so where I was going with that, Orman, is that, if you can make an unseen connection to somebody and cause them to sort of like look at you, not them, but their soul, right? Their soul sneaks up and looks at you. Then at least it puts it in the realms of possibility that more might be available. Now, going back to the Hebrew example, what if I believe that that I can learn Hebrew, but I never get a teacher who can teach me Hebrew. I never pick up a book. I never listen to anything that has to do with Hebrew. In other words, I make no efforts whatsoever. That's wishful thinking. No matter how much babbling I do, I'm never going to spout out Hebrew. And the difference is because I'm not doing something. This is why I'm encouraging, if you want to know if things like this may be possible, not you personally, because I know you know, but if you want to know these things, go try it, right? I can show you how to do something simple like take a headache away. Don't believe me, I can just show it, right? And then you go and try it for yourself. Afterlife and reincarnation. Well, what if quite simply and quite easily in the next 28 days, you could learn how to do that? Leave your body consciously. I don't mean die, okay? I don't mean reincarnate, but I mean, when you go to bed at night, what if you could learn how to control that and actually have a conscious experiential awareness outside of the physical body, looking back at your own body? That might at least give you that, yes, maybe these things are possible. Yeah. So I don't know. Where do you want to go with it? Travis, did that help at all? Because it's a very loaded
interesting.
word.
No, what I mean about beliefs and opinions is in the sense that a belief is just a thought we keep thinking. So I believe that there's no evidence of it. So say my mum's really religious. She's a Christian, right? She believes Jesus is going to come down.
Let's elevate our words. I apologize for interrupting you, Travis, but let's elevate our words because that's not a belief. That has no evidence.
No, all right. No, okay. Let me choose the words carefully. She believes that a man called Jesus is going to come and save the world. And she's highly intelligent, but she believes that that's exactly what's going to happen. Right. But there's no evidence of it. She believes it and she got it. Okay. But it had to, if we look at the Bible in that sense, she's read a book written by men. She studied it and she prays about it. She talks to congregations about it. 40 years later, that belief system so instilled in her subconscious that it's become the truth.
I'm sorry, it's not a belief, it's hypnosis.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. And the same thing, a belief is a suggestion. I said that to my mother. I said, Mum, there's no such thing as religion. There is only influence. She didn't talk to me for about 3 years because I challenged her religion. Not consciously. I didn't try to hurt her. I just said, Mum, can you not see it? But she's identified with that belief that she's too attached to it. She's got too much emotional investment into it now. But
right,
then
but Travis, you keep using the word belief and it's not belief. This what I'm asking is, can we elevate the language choice that we use for a moment? Because I just went on this 5-minute thing about Belief is based on experience, right? It's the 5 steps, and the final result is to lose your belief, right? But that's not belief. This is where the world runs into so much trouble, is that we use words like belief when really what we mean is hope, wishful thinking, faith, perhaps.
Yeah.
But it's certainly not belief. That's hypnosis, right? I mean,
Yeah, of course.
that's a Pavlov
Oh.
response. You can get a ding, earth, the dog salivating and whatnot. Yeah.
So, okay. So when you said about the car, you don't
Yeah.
think you can drive the car. You know you can. That's a knowingness.
Yes.
Okay. But that's true. At first, when you first got in a car, you probably stalled it and what have you, but you learnt it. Then it went from a conscious level to a subconscious level. So now you do it automatically.
Yeah.
So they're not beliefs. But what I'm trying to get at, I'm with
No
you all the
longer.
way. I'm with everyone. I think this is fantastic conversation. It's really interesting because it is deep. These are all, when I'm talking about beliefs and things like that, I know you're saying use a different word, but these are the only words that I can identify with in relation to how the mind operates, because we have a mind and an intellect. But that's from my perception, my opinion, what I believe is that we have a mind, but that's not who we are. It's just something that we have.
I'm listening to you.
Can I say something to you?
Yes, please.
You can't do this with Pierce. You can't beat Pierce. And I know that's not what you're trying to do, but your conversation seems like it. Because I've seen dozens and dozens of Travis in the 70 odd years I've been at this. And I have been at it that longer than that. And there's nothing wrong with you. You're fine. I said that before. It's not your fault. You woke up with all this problem. But we've got the problem of sorting it out. But why should we sort out history of the human race and everything else? Why? It's not our fault, it's theirs. Well, I am interested in salvaging what's left of me in it all. And to do that, I've got to find out what am I actually? Can I ask you? Because I know I love my mother too. She was a beautiful woman. She really was, and a good one. But then everybody's mother's the same. But nevertheless, what actually are you yourself? Can you explain what you are? Because the whole point really is nothing really truly begins in any kind of actuality unless it is real. But how can we actually, I've said this before, Pierce, I'm sorry, but Travis doesn't stand a chance against a man like that. How can he? Because it takes years and years and years and years. Now, this is a very important point. Now, these people here are going to come back next time, and the time after, and the time after, and the time after, and time after. And slowly, as we go on, like Erin said earlier on, this might hopefully produce the very thing that all of us actually are in something greater than ourselves. But nobody's a God. No one is an entity greater than or bigger than the other than the fact the only difference between anyone is the size of the shovel they use when they dig up the truth. Do you understand what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what makes you in the end, isn't it? The truth about yourself. But why does it always have to be so punishing, so down on the floor that we're all stinky wow-wows before we've even been born? Because we all committed the cardinal sin, or our mother did. It's bullshit. But you see, you got it on the blackboard behind you, haven't you? See what I mean about this guy? You can't win him, can you? See, believe, be live, right?
Yeah.
Well, that could also say be evil. You know that, don't you?
Yeah, sure. Of course. There's thesis and antithesis.
When you look at it, a friend of mine said, put your signature here. And I said, why? He said, because it anagrams to a true sign.
Mm-hmm. All
It
right.
does, doesn't it?
Well, okay, so you bring up something very, very important, which is what I've been alluding to, and it's the importance of language and the words that we use. Um, what we're attempting to do is damn near impossible. And the reason why is because we have British English, we have American English, which they would probably argue is not even English. We have a Dutch speaker, we have a Turkish speaker and 8 other languages as well over here. And then even if we all speak the same, what we think are the same words, I have a different view of what belief is than probably everyone else in here.
I'm sorry, you made me feel very small now. I've got to tell you something. I speak 4 languages fluently. And I know you know what they are. And so does Zaya, and so does Mike. And actually, well, I don't know, maybe Erin does a couple at least. I'll tell you what my 4 languages are. I'm sorry, I'm in the minority here. I can't match up to this kind of intelligence. I speak English, Welsh, Scottish, and Irish. Sorry about that.
And gibberish.
And, oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes, I forgot about that one. 5. I feel pentagrammic now. I am at last.
You're complete.
Yeah.
Right, but let's reconnect this, okay?
Okay.
This is really the difficulty, isn't it? I mean, we're pitting ourselves against something impossible. And Travis, I don't feel challenged, to be honest. Contested and challenged are 2 very different things. A challenge just means that there's someone walks away a winner and someone walks away a loser. Contested means that both walk away winners because, unless it's contested, then nothing can grow. Do you think a plant can grow without having to contest the soil through which it strives? If it's not in the soil, if it doesn't have to fight its way, it won't try, it won't grow. So thank you, actually. And I don't feel challenged. And, I'm an Aries and I tend to stand like this anyway, so.
No, I wasn't challenging you at all.
Yeah, no. I know that.
I know. So
no, hang on. Seeing as we're now listen, and we've whittled ourselves down to true believers here. As far as I'm concerned, there are 12 people that are more important in my life at this moment than everyone else in this world. I've come down to 12, including that beautiful woman sitting next to Pierce, 13 of the most beautiful people in the world. Why beautiful? Because you see the same as things as I do. Yeah. I love life. I love creation. I love the fact that we can be born one level and emerge at another, right? So why are we rushing to complete the course in a week? Now, we're going to be back here. We're going to be back here with lots more of this. So if you don't bring your friends with you, there's something wrong with you. Now, next week, we need 500 people, not just 200 who promise and only the true believers turn up. Because I once walked 30 miles. I swear to you, I got kids and grandchildren, or my great-grandchildren, get that one. See, I swear to you, it's the truth. I walked 30 miles to listen to this so-called amazing person speak. I walked because I didn't have the fare, but no one was like me. Ah, you're stupid. Don't listen to all that rubbish. But no, that's not good. And when I got there, I was so excited. I'm telling you, I wouldn't want to tell you what I felt like. Honestly, because it would disrupt your morality of life. Anyway, I listened for 4.5 hours. Now, does that explain to you what it was like? It was awful. It was the biggest load of shit I've ever heard in my life. It was awful. I'm sorry if I'm so dramatic, but it's my life I'm talking about here. Wouldn't you be like that if it was your life? You know, you get stuck in a telephone box with one other person by some crazy psychic serial killer from America. They only live in America. You know that, don't you? Anyway, I'm sorry about that. Anyway, the thing is, and you've got to escape. I tell you what, you'll cut their throats because that's the nature of being alive. You understand? You may say, I believe in this, but what are you going to be like when it comes down to it? You know, I listened to this stupid thing on the radio about this priest who was preaching about Christianity, about how one should be if one was Christian. And then this guy said to him, you were in a, this is true, you were in a boat wreck, weren't you? He said, yes, the boat sank and there was me and 7 other people. He said, you were 2,000 miles from the nearest land, weren't you? He said, yes. He said, well, how many of you reached land? He said, just me. I mean, what does that mean? Just me. Do you understand what we're like when it comes down to being real? What's real? What's real is what you really are. So, you know what, Piers? See, here is a core. There's your core, my friend. See? That's what it's about, isn't it? What does a core mean? A core means what you are. And what you are and whether you can deal with others in the same aspect of it is important, because if others are like you stand a chance, because there's what they call a natural synergy. And a natural synergy is when you get 2 people who come together, or 3 people in the natural order of things come together, they produce a work that's equal to 5 people. And that's what's called a synergy. And that's what you have. That's the furnace that builds a work of life. Because that's what it's about in the end, isn't it? When you get to the end of your life, you're going to say to yourself, was there any point in my existence? Never mind about my life, right? Wouldn't you say so?
Yeah.
Would you say would you say that's religious or what?
Well, it really depends on 2 things. First of all, what a person means by religion. To me, yes, but probably to 10 or 11 other people here, no, it's not religious. To me, it is, because it has to do with connections. Yeah. So yeah, definitely.
Well, so your religion is about connections.
Mm-hmm.
I think you need to be investigated. Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
What do you mean by connections are religious? No, you don't like being unveiled, do you? See, I'm the stooge here. You know, I'm his stooge, by the way. Have you not noticed that? I mean, this is the man, right?
Stirring the pot. No, actually,
why should it have to be under a certain formality? Why do you have to be so-called culturally perfect or something? I mean, why can't you be yourself?
I am.
Actually, no, I'm not talking about you, my friend. I'm talking about why can't you, in the general sense of things, be yours? Is that right, Cassiopeia? Let me introduce you to a woman that I am in love with. There she is. She's Dutch. She lives in Holland. See, do you know we've got people from all over the world here, haven't we? See, and even though she doesn't say much, you'll be surprised what comes out. I won't go any further than that. Anyway, the fact is that, you know, we are what we are because that's what we are. But, you know, we do, like Travis said, we all live with such a possibility. I mean, how do we find it? Where is it, for God's sake? Because I see my relatives, I don't say my parents because my life's unfortunately different to yours, but my relatives are dying on and living and dying on the same terms and conditions as Travis has said about his. So what is wrong with them? Why do we have to suffer the same fate, you know?
Well, we don't. I laid out something earlier that is having to do with the pentagrammic arrangement of belief, culminating in non-belief at the end. And I kind of feel like maybe the first part of it was probably missed.
How about like culminating in the fact that you need to be you?
experiment.
But when you are here, I've seen you twice, 3 times tonight.
Yeah.
The man. That's all you can say, isn't it? Come on, ladies and gentlemen, you've got to nod. Do that. Just do it. The man. Because what he said was amazingly fantastic. Because it was absolutely right. And I quite agree with you. I can only applaud you, you know. But who's going to say that to you? Now, I have a financial agreement with him. I get paid for every commercial I do for him. All right. All right. I do, seriously. Right?
No, but let me tell you something about myself, and I think I'll leave it.
I'm so glad I came tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
I know I've got problems on my camp because I do all the Reddits and all the rest of it. But nevertheless, my friend, you know, I wish I'd met you when I was 18. Because I would have seen in you myself in the future. But not you, myself in the same thing as you.
Yeah.
Now, you may have 7 languages. You're an engineer. You're a kung fu master. I mean, for God's sake, you know, and here you are doing esoteric and occult and religious. I mean, you know, why isn't you levitating when you speak?
I'll tell you something. I'm going to give you guys a story about what I'm like, what I have been like ever since I was a child. One of my earliest memories, I must have been 3, 4, something like that, years old. I remember laying in my bed, right? Just a child. And I had a lamp. It had like things hanging from it, like chandelier type of thing. And I used to stick my hand up like this, laying down in the bed, just to see if I could make that thing move. And I did this for years. I'm sure it was years. And it never moved. Right? I know you guys were hoping for a different outcome. It never moved. But that was the experimental nature of myself. And I've always been like that ever since I was a child. If I want to know if I can do something, I experiment. I try, and I keep trying. And, you know, maybe tonight I'll go and see if I can make it move now. I don't know. But keep trying to do these things. Yeah. Now, I dropped a few seeds along the way, and I hope I'm just going to be incredibly obvious at the moment. I talked about things like, you know, in 28 days, you can learn to astral travel, OBE, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. You can do that. I'll show you how. I gave you the one with the back of the skull thing. Try it. We talked a little bit about healing, right? Removing a headache. If you guys are game, if you're willing, if you're interested in these sorts of things, come back and remind me, okay? And I'm happy to go through these things. Again, those 5 things that I had up here were sort of a template, an outline of where I wanted to go with things. What does it mean to live a life of eminence? We didn't really get there, did we? We only got to the first couple of them, but it starts with living, understanding, first of all, what one is, and then living by what one is, and then developing standards based on value, what one values. And that requires a determination of what is real, yeah, in the cosmos. And then beliefs, we got to that a little bit, but beliefs, for the most part in this world, are just opinions, aren't they? They're just hypnosis of how we're raised or what people have told us to think. And the one feature, I think, of this work is that I will never, ever, it's a stance in me, I will never, ever tell a person what to think, what to believe, what to feel, even what to do. But I might give clues into how. There's a difference between the what and the how to think about things in a different way, how to feel about things differently, right? How to do things differently. And tag along. Join me next time. Yeah.